So, the next topic to discuss is really free-to-play games.
Mm.
Basically, our experiences out, the beginnings of free-to-play, and the current state of free-to-play.
Yeah.
That's how I will, summarize it.
Mm.
I mean, my own experience of free-to-play, obviously I started from, mobile really.
Mm.
Playing games on my iPhone or iPad or whatever else was a thing.
Yeah.
And this was some years ago. That was my first experience of kind of anything that was free to play. And I don't think it's really changed.
Yeah.
Most of the time I was actually pleasantly surprised that this free to play game was, quite functional.
Yeah.
Sometimes impressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
But equally, didn't really enjoy hit with requests to spend money or buy some sort of currency or,
Yeah.
like, what the hell is this daily kind of logging in bonus?
Yeah.
What the bloody hell is all of that? I just found it distracting more than anything else. I don't know, it was just annoying that someone was basically trying to get me to spend money. I found it more annoying that someone was basically breaking my immersion by trying to do all of this stuff. And so that hasn't really changed me too much. We're now seeing what I'd call the next generation. Also, it's almost free to play 2.0. We can call it that.
Yeah, I think so. There's plenty of examples of it. It's expanded so much over time that you could argue there's a lot of technically free-to-play kind of games which are out there, but then because of its popularity, you'll spend on cosmetics, you'll spend on other things that are just part and parcel with the game. I mean, I guess my experience with it has been an interesting one because you could argue things like Dota 2. Dota 2 was free to play when it kind of was released, but other games that has a level of popularity result in people, enjoying the game and spending on it. I've probably spent a decent amount on Dota 2 over time, and it's technically completely free to play. You don't have to spend any money on it. And then similarly with other games from Blizzard, so Heroes of the Storm, Hearthstone, you don't actually have to spend to kind of keep up with that game. Although I think if you were to play serious ranked, then you would need to, purchase particular things in the likes of Hearthstone. And then obviously we've experienced Destiny and Warframe, things like that, of very differing styles of free to play as well. I think Warframe is one of those that are extremely generous in its approach to free to play.
I love Warframe. As you know, I mean, I haven't sunk as much time into it as some other people. No doubt about that. But I'm a little bit awestruck by that game. There's a bit of a story with Warframe, because I remember 7 years ago, whenever it was, when PS4 came out.
Yeah.
Obviously with PS4 there wasn't exactly a glut of like launch titles. I think, if I remember rightly, below that of the kind of like PS5 in what it had to offer, day one.
Yeah.
Warframe was actually one of the titles that you could download day one. I think it was day one.
Yeah.
And I do remember it fairly vividly. Getting up Warframe, mucking around with it, thinking, oh, this is interesting. This whole agile ninja dynamic, the sword play, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But literally, Al, there was nothing to do.
Yeah.
Nothing to do. So, obviously, I must have played it for a few hours, put it down, and then I think it was probably, if I remember this rightly, probably about 4 years after the fact, I picked it up again, thinking, yeah, I've got nothing to do. I'll just, Warframe's free to play. I'll just give it a shot. Yeah, and I was totally kind of gobsmacked. It just became very kind of like, what's the way that would I put this?
Complete,
complex, and really content rich.
Yeah.
This thing had got content obese.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can say about it. It's just like, I got in there and I was like, first of all, I said, wow, what's all this stuff? Then I kind of thought, it's so complex, I just really don't know where to begin. You had a wealth of content, to get your teeth into. At that point, I kind of obviously started playing a little bit more with it.
Yeah.
Actually played the game, before I would go to work.
Yeah.
I did that for months. To the annoyance of my partner. I thought to myself, this is a real kind of Cinderella story here, if you know what I mean. And, there has been documentaries obviously, video game documentaries by, YouTubers and whatnot, talking about the whole kind of life cycle of a Warframe, and basically they got to the point they're at now.
Yeah.
And again, this is a game that, had they not basically turned it around, that studio was out of business.
Yeah.
It was gone.
And it's definitely been a labor of love, and it just continued to have so much content. It is amazing what they're kind of putting out for it. And I think, if they do, I think the reason why I've not played a huge amount of Warframe is just waiting for that cross save. As soon as it does that, I think it can justify the amount of time you spend on it, and you can spend on, switch between a PlayStation 4 or 5, and then go, drop onto your PC with the same account. You have the same progress. You can just do different things within the game because there's just so much of it.
Yeah, that would be amazing, I think.
Yeah.
That will definitely be good. I mean, with you, Al, I've started playing Warframe again.
But it'd be good, to play with our old gang that used to be playing Destiny as well, who are still on the PS4, right? So it'd be really good.
You will never get that old gang that used to play Destiny to play Warframe, in my view. Right? Because we've been trying.
Mm-hmm.
And I prescribe to this whole kind of thing where you say, yeah, Warframe's better than Destiny. Well, I kind of do, because I grew sick of Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
But don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed Destiny. Especially the first Destiny, when we used to play into the night. Yeah. But then subsequent expansion, and then obviously Destiny 2.
Yeah.
Free to play or not. My God, it just felt like
it was the same stuff again. It was just
yeah, exactly the same stuff, and it was also felt very hollow. If you know what I mean, as an experience for me. I mean, the gunplay's still as good as it ever was.
Yep.
That's your bag. By all means, play it as much as you want.
Yep.
But for me, the whole thing felt a little bit hollow.
And
whilst I'll say Warframe, felt an obese experience where there was just too much and it was overwhelming.
Yeah, definitely an overwhelming experience.
Yeah. Destiny was the other way. It just felt like it was. It just felt hollow.
And I think that was the problem with Destiny, that I kind of listened, and I joined late to Destiny 1 anyway, because you guys convinced me to kind of join you guys to play it. So I thought, you know what, I'll play a bit. But then I gave up after one. I can't remember if it was one or two expansions kind of in. I was just like,
yeah, probably one or two.
It was just like promises that weren't really making any sense to me. So yeah,
I'm still hoping one day, right, that if Destiny, that's changes that I personally think it needs. Not every. Obviously, there's millions of people out there playing Destiny, so obviously it's doing something right.
Yeah.
But for me, the reason I like Warframe is that I want that choice. To the degree I want to be overwhelmed, and I want an obese experience, not an anorexic one. Do you know what I mean? Like, to my mind, and I always go back to this, I kind of think, if Destiny had just retained some of the content they had, I don't mind going back and playing the same strikes over and over again. I don't mind any of that. Yeah. But, taking things away, and I just remember the whole, the early days of Destiny where it was all about the exotics.
Oh, yeah.
And then that kind of dried up
over
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's changed, because I've not gone back to kind of Destiny in a while, but where had that gone?
I didn't like the way that they removed old content rather than reusing it, rebalancing, repurposing. I know they've made reasons for not maintaining it, but I don't think they're true reasons that are kind of behind it, because they had an opportunity with Destiny 1. Destiny 2, I think on launch was quite horrendous, if I remember correctly. At least some of the original kind of things around it, having to, again, similar to a lot of these AAA titles nowadays, where they're rushing for a release or having to rebuild it from kind of ground up, because of not really meeting the dev requirements that was in there. And then resulting in a really shonky, AAA release. And these, because again, you mentioned you don't want that anorexic kind of release, but there's a lot of AAA titles that have been doing that, right? You could argue from Fallout 76, all those different things that have just been on release has just been so underwhelming.
No, I hear you. I mean, I do wonder also whether I'm not going to say it's just down to free to play, but it's certainly down to having games that are really, it's gaming as a platform almost, or gaming where really everything's online and the reality is, right, you can fix it at a later date. So your initial product doesn't need to be maybe
as polished.
As polished, or even the full feature set or the full product.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, fully understandable that developers may feel they need to do that, but equally they've got to strike a kind of sensible balance here. Because no one's gonna really kind of want your game if it's just kind of a half product.
Yeah.
People are gonna know that.
Yeah, and then the key thing I think with free to play is just a regular cycle of content, because if it dries up, I think that was one of the other struggles with Destiny, was that, I mean, they blamed the engine, they blamed a whole bunch of things in order for them to be restrictive to do that release, but they've had opportunities to fix that. But the key is being able to continue with that content. It keeps the popularity of the game up, and by doing that, people will just spend money on those games.
Yeah.
I've been playing, like I mentioned on the last kind of podcast, there's Genshin Impact as well. I've been playing a lot of that. I've been sort of purchasing their basic packs and their basic battle pass and things like that, because again, I'm sinking enough hours into it, and it's been an enjoyable experience from a kind of a technically a free to play game kind of perspective. There are some, and I think I kind of mentioned, there was some really strange nuancy mechanics around loot boxes and things like that. Also known as a gacha system, which is a kind of a Japanese term for kind of gambling for a particular kind of rewards. It kind of pushes that, and it can be quite dangerous, I guess, for people that can get really addicted. But otherwise, I think it's a good solid game that they got there in Genshin Impact.
With that sort of thing, I think developers, publishers need to have a little bit of responsibility as well. Because you don't want to. I mean, we know certain things work. We know that I call it a gameplay science to things. Yeah. People want that, instant gratification. There's a game loop that people want to engage in. There needs to be a bit of responsibility and kind of common sense there. The whole gambling and the addiction. Care has to be taken. I mean, I always kind of worry when I hear that games are basically touching or going down the direction of gambling. Don't take it too far. Is what I say. Don't take it too far and go out of business, especially if you've got a good game. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, what is Genshin Impact is it because I feel that Warframe is a really fair free to play game. It's fair.
Yeah.
In what it does. Is Genshin Impact a fair free to play game?
I would say yes. I think you could play it relatively free to play. I think the thing that the players complain the most about is what they call the resin system, which is basically a refresh over time in order to play specific content. So basically, it time gates you. You can't basically just play 24/7 to grind something, because you will run out of things to do, and it will stop you from doing the sort of end content, because you need this resin to essentially unlock the rewards from doing something. People do complain about it, but it's one of those that actually I think it's probably a good balance, that it just stops people from being on the game 24/7. So for me it's quite nice. I just basically log in once or twice a day, do the odd thing to kind of keep the resin count kind of going, and just kind of finish off that content. And then every so often they'll release big events that you can play, which is additional new content. So they've done kind of events for I guess Chinese New Year, and all sorts of stuff. So I'm expecting them to keep going, really.
That's actually a good move. I think it just sounds like they're being kind of like sensible there.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I mean, they don't really talk about. I mean, I get what they've done is, because there's a lot of systems which are very similar maybe it's from the mobile games. You know how mobile games, they'll limit you to saying you can only play 10 games of this per day.
Yeah,
and then you have to pay for the Pro Edition or something in order to unlock additional things.
Yeah, of course.
It's kind of a bit like that, because you could actually pay some money, or you could pay some things to unlock more resin. So you can pay to play more. So it's a kind of a gated system around that. But I don't know if they ever talk about really, is it also to try and reduce the amount of time that people play? Because there's obviously the old classic stories of, a kid or someone that's been basically playing StarCraft all day for 3 days or something, not going out to eat or anything, and just collapsing and dying. This system would stop that from happening.
It's not pay to win, and it's certainly not. It's not about cosmetics.
You could. Yeah, there is a pay-to-win angle on it. So, this gacha, these loot boxes, you can basically roll for characters, and you can roll for weapons. And basically, you can unlock those only sometimes through this particular kind of system. So, like, what they call the five-star characters, 5-star weapons. In order to get that, you have to roll on these particular loot boxes. Admittedly, you get some free ones, but typically you won't get enough. Which means you should spend to get those particular items. So there's a way for them to, because you're so addicted, you want the best item. Then yes, you want to kind of roll for it.
Yeah.
The other angle is because there's no real PvP, then you're only really playing against the game. It's all PvE based. There is co-op kind of portions. A lot of the content is solo, but. Yeah, it's more bragging rights, if anything.
Sounds like my kind of game, really, because I'm not really much of a PvP player, but I like PvE.
Yeah, you should try it at some point. It's quite.
Yeah, it's the whole timing thing again, Al. I mean, like, there's no getting away from that shit, right? So, like, time is everybody's limit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole free-to-play thing, though. I mean, like, there's some really great quality kind of like titles out there that are free to play, which is 10 years ago I think that would have been astounding. There's a load of there's a load of free to play games that I want to try.
Yeah, and mobile as well, because I imagine Diablo Immortal might be free to play.
Yeah, I imagine it might be, but I haven't really looked into that.
I think they've only really started beta testing it in China, I believe, because that's the market they're really going after.
Yeah, of course, right. This part, is it Path to Exile, or what is that?
Path of Exile.
That's free to play, right?
Yes. So there should be Path of Exile 2 or 3 kind of coming at some point.
I think it's the second one's coming out.
Yeah, I think the mobile kind of market is where it's going to get really interesting. To see if there's any other games that will come out of interest, because there's all these kind of random, kind of basic games. I mean, Hearthstone was technically free to play, and I played a lot of that. I don't think I actually spent a single penny on that game, actually. Now that I think back to it. But again, there was a lot of popularity of mobile games, and a lot of popularity of these free to play models. But as soon as people start playing it and get kind of addicted to the game, they're more than willing to spend money on it. Because if you think about the hours of time and effort you kind of spend on it, it's I can see it being perfectly fine. You could even look at what was the other one, Call of Duty. Was it Warzone? The battle royale game. That was that's done pretty well for making it kind of a free to play model. And Apex Legends was free to play, wasn't it as well? And that did really well. Again with loot boxes, although those were all cosmetic, so there was no pay to win element of it. So there's lots of free to play games out there.
I think my own view is that cosmetics, customizations like that, really does matter for most players. I think
there's bragging rights.
Yeah, I mean, I think it matters even more than play to win and all of that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Because for me, right, I mean, I think something like cosmetics and customization that has a bit of that is a sustained revenue stream.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's not like a one-off thing, because the game's over. It's over.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, and if you've got a good base gameplay loop, which is what Apex Legends was, there's that good kind of fast gameplay. People were enjoying it, and then people were just spending on their kind of their loot boxes to get that legendary skin or something that they're kind of going after. Again, for additional bragging rights.
Yeah, definitely, most definitely.
Yeah.
So, Al, anything more to say on free to play?
No, I think we've covered covered the wide kind of selection of free to play, and I think the key is that is there maybe we can discuss that as the level of responsibility around the things like loot boxes and spending and even kids spending. You could argue Fortnite, I guess, is the really big one.
yeah, that we've not talked about. I mean, I don't know, but I'm not a Fortnite player. I mean, my nieces were.
yeah. But that's a completely different market of people that are playing it. But it's so popular that people are spending, that or spending their mum's credit card on it. So.
Yeah, someone's credit card. One thing that I will say, like, before we conclude this topic, is that why the bloody hell does everybody still talk about Destiny, but no one ever talks about Warframe? Because I do follow other, obviously, podcasters and YouTubers, and more often than not, we're talking about, let's say, online shooters and free to play and whatnot. Destiny always comes up in the conversation.
Yeah.
Warframe never comes up in the conversation.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, right, Warframe doesn't ever come up in the conversation other than with people who play Warframe. If you know what I mean. So you have a very general conversation about, let's say, online shooters, online action games. Most often than not, it doesn't ever feel like Warframe is ever going to be mentioned, and I don't really know what it is.
And I think it's a popularity thing. I think it's also the PvP aspect. I think PvP is actually quite big in Destiny as well. So a lot of people play it for that particular kind of model. But I think when you look at the core of the content, and again the free-to-play aspect of Warframe, your question is completely valid. It's like, why aren't people playing it more?
Yeah, because it's just so impressive. There's just no two ways of kind of saying it. It's just so impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that year where they basically decided to give players, we're just going to give you a large open world map.
Yep.
And we're just going to keep churning this out. And then, they did the whole, was it the gun rail thing? The gun jack or whatever it was called, right? But I mean, they here's a basically starship we're going to give you to customize.
Yeah.
And do missions with. For me, I mean, my mind's blown about, not necessarily about the kind of content you get in Warframe, just about why doesn't anybody talk about this game? Basically, why isn't it it doesn't really feel it's in the upper echelon of conversations about games. I mean,
yeah, it could be a pace thing as well, because there was the other comment from one of our other friends, right, that said it was too quick for them. There was, or the frames were too quick for them. So
yeah,
there could be that level. Yeah.
Gameplay style, I think. I mean, it is a third person, not a first person action game. I can imagine the gameplay mechanic isn't going to really kind of suit everybody.
Yeah.
For what they're doing, I mean, I'm just thinking, this is seriously impressive. It's at least technically impressive what they're able to do. But, again, it doesn't make it into the, what I feel is the upper echelon of conversation in terms of the games that are free to play, online, gaming as a platform. Why not?
Yeah. And maybe I'll have a think about that a bit more. But I think it is about the gameplay and the accessibility of the game. You can argue that some of the games may be more casual orientated, because you did say you're overwhelmed. The amount of content that's in there.
I like games that are complex and have a lot of depth and all that sort of thing. But it's just the way I'm built. Yeah. Other people might look at this thing and say, "Holy shit." I haven't got 2 decades for this.
Yeah.
I know that's what Rob kind of, when he first looked at it, he thought to himself, like, I just don't know what to do.
Yep. I mean, I've played it for a bit and I still don't know what to do in it.
Yeah, that's true. That's if I'm being honest with myself, that's probably true of myself as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll need to kind of conclude the free to play part of this podcast, and I think it's time to move on, really.
Cool.